Hey guys, my name is Gabe Lomotey and I'm a filmmaker and photographer based in Columbus, but when I'm not doing that, I like to mess around with color grading. So today I want to do kind of like a beginner's guide in a way, color grade for you guys, and kind of just hop right into it. First off, I want to showcase what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and emulate this grade that I did last night actually, and it follows a pretty simple node structure tree. Simple. I will actually have this node structure available for you guys to download just as a default, and you can just copy and paste it. Now this utilizes Kodak's 2383 film look, and right now film looks are extremely hot. So let's pop over here, and we're not going to make the exact grade, but we're going to try and make something similar. So first thing I have to do is I'm going to input my camera settings, and we're going to be working in DWG or DaVinci wide gamut as our color space, alongside with the gamma being DaVinci intermediate. And since this was shot on the Sony a7 IV, this was shot in S-Log3, so I already know those settings. And then we're going to come right over to CST out node, and we are going to just leave that as is. And since we are using a film look, it's going to be with Cineon Film Log as our output gamma. And then if you come over here, you can actually get access to the 3 different versions. I'm going to use the D55, but D60 and D65 are also there available for your use. So first thing I like to do when I like to grade is I actually come and mess around with my exposure and contrast first. Contrast I typically do in my curves, or sometimes I actually use it on my primary wheels where the contrast and where the pivot button is. So in this situation, what I'm going to do is we're just going to go on the contrast node, and then I am going to just drop down the highlights, actually even make 2 more points, and I want to kind of like start forming the image just a little bit. Yeah, looks not bad right now, but again, it's starting. We're just doing this as a starter. And I think honestly, if I'm going to just speak out of experience, color grading is sometimes very intimidating, but the more that you do it, the more you have fun with it. So that's kind of how I learned to do this, and I just consistently practice. We're going to come right over to the gamma, and we're going to drop that gamma to start balancing our image. And then alongside with the shadows, I kind of want them to be dark. And I also do like to pay attention to my waveform, make sure things aren't clipping and I'm not necessarily crushing blacks, but sometimes it's okay to break rules. That's okay. Drop the gamma even more. And then there's a nice little trick that I kind of learned about highlights. What you do is you kind of create a previous node, and then you type in highlight, and then I'm gonna make my highlights about -4. Come over to my HSL qualifier, and then under luminance, I'm going to put the lows as 60 and my high as 100, and then my soft as like 35, and I just leave it as that. And then you can kind of see what it does. And on top of that, what I can do now is I can just come back over here, and I can even bring my highlights back up just a little bit from the curves. Now you're kind of already seeing how the image is starting to make way, right? So we've already messed with our exposure, we've messed with our contrast. Now we're gonna go over to our primaries. I'm going to do a little bit of work with the primaries, and then what I'll do is I'll come into my HDR tab right over here, my HDR node, and then within the light and shadows, I'm going to actually mess around with these. So when I select this setting over here, I can see that that's going to be highlighted, and then I can actually bring that more towards the warm area, and then the shadows I can actually decrease it. And it's interesting because we're doing minor adjustments. It's very small. It's very small what's happening here, but when I enable this node, you kind of see what's going on. Now I'm going to go over to my log wheels, and I'm actually going to decrease these shadows even more just to give it more punch. And for midtones, I probably will bring up just a bit. Let's just re-enable this node right here, put it at -6, just a little bit. And also notice right here for a second, in this image it is clipping, but don't worry, we have a fix for this. So as I go alongside and I'm creating my look, I also refine by going back. So you don't necessarily have to look and be like, okay, you're done. You can consistently go back and forth and see exactly what works for you. And in this situation, so far it looks pretty good to me. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna head over to my HSV node, which is going to give me cinematic saturation. I already have this enabled for you guys, so if you do download this, again, this will be available on Patreon. You're just going to come over to the HSV node, and you're just going to adjust with the green tab, and that's going to let you tune in your saturation. And now what we're going to do is we're going to come over to our CST out, bring this right back up. What we're going to do is we're going to come over to tone mapping, and I'm actually going to select this, increase this all the way to the max, and then I'm going to come over to the gamut mapping method, and then I'm going to select saturation compression, and that is going to remove that artifacting, right? And then alongside with that, let's say for example, if I feel like it's way too yellow, I can come over to my density, which I also use for the color slice tool. I'm actually going to decrease the density for this, right? And then I'm also going to drop this down to about -40, and I can also bring back some of the saturation from those yellows. Her skin looks a little bit too yellow, so maybe I'm going to come right back over to the gain, or just drop that down just a little bit, not too much. And then over here in the creative node, you can come over here, and if you want to enable the glow and the halation, the bloom, you have the ability to do so. I guess I did not add it in this one specifically, and then I have the ability to adjust with the gain and the gamma if needed, mess around with that spread up to the way that I want to. For the halation node, basically you can come over here and just drag on your halation and then make your adjustments as you want to. And then for bloom, what I do is I use a film look creator, and I will actually add a clean slate. I drop all the way down to bloom, and then I enable that bloom, and then I have the ability to adjust it. It makes a small difference. You can kind of see it in her shirt. The finishing touches comes from a DCTL, so what I can do is come over here, and then I can use the IC saturator or the Tetra just to mess around more with the saturation if needed, and that allows me to check my curves and see what is exactly being affected, and I'm able to tune in saturation. I'm able to tone in saturation much more than just using the primaries on the default tabs that DaVinci gives you. So that's up to you if you want to use a DCTL, and it kind of shows off a little bit of a pop. And literally that is it. That is all that we needed to do. So once again, I can clear that off. Actually, let me take this out. Just like that, we've taken our image from looking like this all the way to this, and that is exactly kind of the style that I follow when I'm doing a Kodak 2383 look. And obviously there are many other ways that you can grade. I have 7 different custom power grades available on my Patreon to download, so if you want to go get those, you have the ability to, and I will also have this exact same one available for you guys to download as well on Patreon. So feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more, and again, feel free to also join the Patreon, as I will consistently be dropping videos like this. And also feel free to follow me on Instagram and TikTok for shorter videos.